Stanley Bielecky was born on November 12, 1903, near Berlin, Germany. His family came to the United States when he was 3, and they settled in East Chicago. A born artist, Stanley trained at the Minneapolis Institute of Arts and at the Chicago Art Institute. Lasting influences included Reginald Marsh and Thomas Hart Benton. During World War II, he served as a camoufleur for the Army's 850th Engineer Battalion. After the war, he reassumed a position as instructor of fine arts at Valparaiso University in Indiana, and he began to summer on Mackinac Island. He tended bar at the Murray Hotel or drove a carriage to make ends meet. From the late 40s into the 70s, he painted thousands of watercolors and oils of the Mackinac scene. He died in 1978, leaving behind some of the most deft and spirited depictions of Mackinac painted in the 20th century. Stanley Bielecky's Boats and Buggies, red top to bottom. The Mackinac Islander, last of the old coal burners, floats alongside the Arnold dock. One little line slopes the shed roof off the horizontal. The diesel-driven Huron motors up to moor against a maze of pilings vertical. Black ink squiggles and blue watercolor blurs compose the water, whose watery reflections dissolve the Huron's ship-shape outline into a fading image of itself. 4 windows wavering. A mast, maybe, a shadowy pilot house. Then, in a zen leap of space, come the busy buggies. Like Michelangelo, who stopped God on the ceiling, coming and going at the same time, here are the buggies, front, back, and side. One, fringed and empty, waits eagerly for tourists. The inmates of the Grand Hotel's omnibus are each one neatly window-framed. The top-hatted teamster of the third carriage holds the line diagonal, as a bederbied driver ogles 3 broad-bottomed bicyclists wheeling by the baseline. Matched Belgians, strapped in sturdy harness, are rendered with cinched-up accuracy. Foreground-centered, the hefty horse puts a hoof forward, turns his elongated head towards us as if to say, "Am I not as much an individual as you? And which of us, sir, is pulling the heavier load?" This Mackinac scene itself floats on the blue void and was handed down by Stanley Bielecky. On the Arnold dock, 1950. Bielecky does it again, catching with pencil and pigment and water fleeting island life now long gone, including the venerable city of Detroit, tied up to the dock in front of us. When she was launched in 1911, this sidewheel steamship was the latest and largest in design and in luxury. She could make 22 miles an hour, and her interiors were trimmed with English oak and Tiffany stained glass. By 1950, the D&C liner was cruising towards a ship's graveyard, treasured more for scrap than for her classic superstructure. The black hull dominates the middle of the composition. Fancy work ornaments the bow. Orange, red, yellow, blue blips are outlined into passengers along the rail. The blue-windowed pilot house crowns the next level. The great timbered awning cuts a structural diagonal overhanging the tan-planked dock. Passengers, porters, and gawkers chat, hustle, and walk in the shadow of the moored vessel. One iron-wheeled cart budges into the picture. A miniature sailboat in the harbor beyond floats beneath the hinted blue sky that is mostly paper white. Shearing off are 3 blue gulls a child could have penciled in. Passengers congregate and ascend the gangplank into the ship. A purposeful porter in size 12 brogans lugs 2 suitcases. A broad-bottomed doxy in blue polka-dot bloomers, red striped blouse, and yellow-tinted hair still commands her spot while wobbling on high-heeled shoes. And here is where it gets personal. That brown-haired boy in white shorts holding a blue book. That's me. I was there on the Arnold dock in 1950. And so was my 44-year-old father. That could be him on the right in a blue hat, or more likely the guy with his hands behind his back talking to the fellow from the crew. Bielecky has somehow snagged one of my primal memories. I was pushing 5 and on my first visit to already mythic Mackinac. My great-grandfather, Frank, an Irish lad, debarked on the island to join old bog neighbors, Murrays, Chambers, and Earleys, who had likewise abandoned their West Coast homes for the lure of food, jobs, and a landscape reminiscent of Ireland, if you totally discount the winter. Frank was crew boss on this very Arnold dock for years. My grandfather, James, the doctor, was born and lived his life on the island. My father, also James, the able-bodied seaman, was born on the island. Now he wanted to guide his Chicago-born son around one of the classy ships of his youth before it was consigned to the scrap heap. I remember going up the gangplank. I remember my fear that the boat would leave with us on it. I remember his fatherly forbearance in getting us back on the dock well before "all ashore, going ashore" was bellowed about the boat. And I would bet on the impression that the book in my hand is Paddle to the Sea. All blue, red bottom to top. Stanley Bielecky inscribes one corner under a dormer, across discrete blue spaces of alley and home, opposite a cropped copse of feather-limbed balsams. The precinct is a patterned jumble. Roof-topped cubes lined up hugger-mugger in 90-degree verticals, 180-degree horizontals, and various slants off 45. The mild hulk of Gothic St. Anne's rises up just off center. Turreted cottage View de Lac is attendant. Blue, blue, blue suffuses flat plains marked with hand-drawn ink-black lines of walls, windows, another turret, and chimneys. Single-stroke shingles blur surfaces into definition this way and that. But where is everybody? Emerson does not walk his little dog Shotzi along the vague road of blue. No caparisoned horse canters. No team of Belgians pulls a loaded-up dray. Is it all naps and nuzzles for residents behind blue windows opaque? Blue stillness pervades the scene where 12 sailboats sail themselves west across the blue bay, all hands unrepresented. With the rectangular rigor of an antiquated brownie, the landmark tower of my ancestors' church is lopped off. The artist is gone now, leaving it to you to construct the lofty spire's tapering height, cross-fixed against a sky, all blue.